So, hopefully I can bust out a spat of videos this weekend, because I certainly do have a lot to talk about. But at any rate, here we go. So, this next video is going to be called, non-humans know that you're human. We'll see. But basically, non-humans know that you're human. So if this is the first video of mine that you're seeing, I guess you're really in for a treat tonight. Because I get kind of deep into conspiracy theories and the weirder nature of this world. Well, anyway, people have basically been, talking about this for the last couple of years on the internet, but it turns out most of this world is really a lie, and most of the people in this world are really not human. And if you're an actual human being, you're a person with a soul, you're among the few, okay? I don't know for sure how many people are actual human beings with souls, but it seems to be a few, okay? Out of 100, I would say probably, I don't know, just a few, okay? A few percentage points. And most people are not human. Now, you may be saying, that's a load of crap. How can you tell this? I'm glad you asked that. See, there are really two primary ways you can tell if a person is human or not. And one of them is through what's called transvestigation. And the other is, by counting someone's blinking, right? So, transvestigation, what is that? Well, what that is basically these non-human creatures are, they're androgynous, okay? They're not 100% male or female. They are androgynous, okay? Which means they have the traits of both sexes in one body, right? Now, a real human should basically be, 100% male or female. But these things, they are going to not be 100% male or female. They're going to be a mix of both, okay? And there are many different ways where you can tell if someone is a transsexual, okay? Or hermaphrodite, a mixed gender, whatever. Many different ways. One of the ways is by looking at someone's hands. Males are supposed to have big hands, and their ring finger is supposed to be bigger than their trigger finger, okay? If someone has hands that are opposite of that and they're a man, they might be a tranny, alright? They might be one of these non-human creatures. Another way is through facial features. A real man should have a hairline. A real man should have a sloping forehead. A real man should have brow bone over his eyes. His eyes should be like behind his brow bone, so it looks like they're pushed back, his eyes. A real man should have strong cheekbones. A real man should have like a U-shaped, boxy kind of jaw, whereas a woman has more of a V-shaped jaw. A real man has a chin that doesn't stick out as much. His chin is more like a fist, a woman's chin is more like a banana, okay? A woman's chin's more like a banana because it's like a V, and also it sticks out. A real man should have a fist more like a chin more like a box or a fist. It's square, it's kind of U, and it doesn't stick out, okay? And there are other things too. I go over some of these more in depth in other videos as far as how to tell a real man from, one of these imposter non-human creatures. Some call them reptilians, really they're fallen angels and demons, alright? But, you can call them reptilians if you want. I mean, it gets the point across. These things are not human, clones, robotoids, whatever name, organic portals, whatever name you have for these things, alright? Also, they either blink too much or they don't blink at all. Like, by too much, I mean probably like more than once every 5 seconds. And by, if they blink once every 5 seconds maybe, or certainly more than once every 5 seconds, you're dealing with a non-human. And if they blink not at all, you're dealing with a non-human. So a human probably blinks somewhere between once every 6 seconds and like once every human probably blinks maybe between 4 and 8 or 9 times a minute. They blink let me think, 5 times 6, they blink more than 10 times a minute, probably not human. If they blink less than 3 or 4 times a minute, probably not human. Somewhere around there, okay? And, yeah. So, those are really some of the 2 best ways you can tell that someone is either human or not if you're face to face with them and you're talking with them, okay? But, yeah, most of the world actually is comprised of these non-human creatures. Jesus Christ talked about it in the Gospels. He talked about the wheat and the tares, didn't he? And he said the tares were, poison on the inside. They look like wheat, but they're not, okay? And wheats are real humans with souls who are God's children, all right? Now, back in the day, thousands of years ago, maybe it was a situation where, where tares were among the wheat. Unfortunately, Christ also said the last days would be like the days of Noah. And in the days of Noah, I believe, it's the way things are now, which is basically the wheat, real humans, are among the tares. It's not like these tares are, only the super rich. That's one thing a lot of the reptilian people, on purpose or not, got wrong. It's not like, only the rich are, non-humans and everyone else is normal. No. Real normal humans are rare, and these non-humans, they're the most common. And that's why this world is so psychopathic and so crazy, because most of the, people running around are not really human. And that goes for people of, every, race or ethnicity. It's not just like, the non-humans are this race or the non-humans are that race. This goes for every race and ethnicity. Man, really shaking on the road, dude. This goes for every race or ethnicity. This goes for everyone, all right? These non-humans, they're everywhere. They're, they're both genders. They're every race. They're every ethnicity. And if you're a real human, no matter what you are in the minority, all right? And these non-humans, they know that you're human. They know that you're different. And they will always treat you like that. And a lot of that is what explains MGTOW, what explains TFL, total forced loneliness, okay? It explains gang stalking. It explains targeted individuals. What's going on here? Well, when you suffer from these things, what's going on here is that you are a human in a world of non-humans. So they're kind of boxing you out. That's basically what's going on here. They're really just kind of boxing you out. And hold on. Yeah, they're really just kind of boxing you out and just kind of making it difficult for you to really socialize with people, or get along with people, because they know you're not like most people. You are actually human. Again, most people look human, but they're not, okay? It's basically as if most of the world was reptilian and real humans are, rare. You thought it was a world where most people were real humans and reptilians were a secret club. Well, really, most of the world is reptilians and real humans are in a secret club. How about that? That's some weird crap, right? But it's true. That's how it is, okay? Yeah. Now, when I say reptilian, I'm really saying fallen angels and demons, because there's no such thing as aliens from outer space. Like, why would a bunch of aliens from outer space need to come to Earth and pretend to be human so they can blah blah blah? It doesn't make any sense. They would have just killed every last human off by now, instead of trying to look like humans, trying to intermarry with humans, trying to do all of this intermingling. Okay, they're doing it because they're fallen angels and demons. They're not doing it because they're reptilians from outer space. I mean, by now you should have heard of all the stories of people ending alien abductions because they cried out to Jesus Christ. Crying out to Jesus Christ ends alien abductions or anything like that. So, I mean, how are these things aliens from Mars or whatever? It doesn't make any sense, alright? They're not aliens, okay? They're fallen angels and demons. And really, they're a lot closer to us than, aliens could ever be. But that's a whole nother video. But at any rate, at any rate, that's why you, as a real human, have felt so boxed out and left out of everything, and like you're singled out, and everyone's watching you, and yada yada yada, and you just don't know what's going on. You feel like everyone is like almost part of some hive mind or whatever. Well, they are. They are a part of the hive mind. They are the hive mind, okay? Because they're not human. They're talking about you amongst each other, probably telepathically, when you're gone, when you're out of the room, and then you come back, they're like, treating you weird, alright? They might let you, get at the lower levels of a job or a career or whatever, but the more you try to really kind of strive for it, trying to get below the beyond the bottom level, the more these things are just gonna box you out. It's sad like that, but it's real. And these things have known about you for quite a while. You've grown up with these things. These things were non-humans when you were kids, and you were a kid too, and you were playing with them. And they knew who you were, but you didn't know who they were. You didn't know that they were not human. But they knew all about you all along. And they were, playing video games, or jumping rope, skipping rope, playing double dutch with you, or whatever you was doing as a little kid. They was doing that too. But you was a human, and you was ignorant, and they wasn't human, and they knew. Okay. So yeah, all throughout your life, if you think about it, you can think of just the masses of people, if you're a real human, around you, the masses of people treating you different. And that's certainly the case with me, I can recall way back when I was like really, really, really little. And, I would have these thoughts in my head. Like, I know I'm real, but how do I know that everyone else is real, and that they, they're conscious, basically, like I am. I don't know that. I remember thinking that even when I was a little kid, and it's the weirdest thing, and, some people would say that it's narcissistic, and maybe it kind of is, but it was the truth, right? I mean, it was the truth. I was a real human, and most of the people around me probably were, they weren't even human. And maybe I just kind of knew, or I don't know. But I was never like a narcissist. I was never the type of person to be, not thinking of others, because I was like, well, they're probably real, so I'll treat them like, I would want to be treated. I didn't become a bad kid until I was like a teenager, or in middle school, I didn't become bad until I was like in middle school. But prior to that, I was more or less a good kid, especially as a real little kid, Yeah, I was like, maybe I just kind of knew, they say children can kind of see ghosts better than adults can. I don't know if that's true, but maybe a lot of kids just kind of know some of these spiritual things, like that there is a God, and that there is, a boogeyman, and that, there is karma, and that you ought to be careful in this world, and, all these kind of things. Maybe just little kids just kind of, they're pre-equipped to know that. I don't know. And then we kind of teach it out of them, maybe. I don't know. But, going through elementary school, I had a lot of friends, up until like the 3rd grade, really. I had a lot of friends. But I do remember there was this one time where I was in 3rd grade, and I was a military brat, so I'm overseas, and this one this one little girl I had a crush on back way when I was like in 1st through 3rd grade. I had a crush on her, and we had a dance, but she left. I guess she got transferred or whatever, before I could tell her. And she was probably non-human too, the way these things work. But she was probably non-human too. But I had a crush on her, and I wasn't able to tell her. And, I felt kind of bad about it, but I I seem to remember going to this dance or whatever by myself. And, I don't really know if I told other people that I liked this girl who just moved. But, I mean, it was what it was. But there was this other girl, this, girl, she kind of reminds me of, Amy Schumer as a kid or whatever. Somehow, we're talking or she comes up to me and she makes a jab at me about, me liking this girl or not being able to tell her or whatever. And at the time, I'm just looking at her, and I guess I'm looking at her kind of mad, and she's sorry or something. But, it was very, looking back on it, it was very weird. And maybe I thought this at the time, I don't even remember telling you that. Now, maybe I told some of my friends that, and they told other people who told her or something. I don't know. Maybe it was something like that. Or maybe she was just reading my mind, because she wasn't human herself. But certainly I wasn't really friends with this girl, and it was just kind of weird that she would even know that. Like how would you know that? But I mean, I don't know. It was very peculiar, isn't it? And when another thing, when I was little, my second best friend was this Mormon kid, and sometimes we would go to each other's house and whatever, and for a sleepover, and it was his mom was really nice and his brothers seemed nice. I don't know if he was real or not. I've tried looking him up on Facebook. I don't think I can find him, which might indicate that he's real, because there's certainly a lot of non-humans on Facebook. I don't know, but his mother seemed nice and his brothers seemed nice, but I can certainly tell his dad didn't like me. And this leads into another thing. A lot of times we have human parents, but our human parents get replaced with these non-human creatures, okay? Because, they didn't love God enough, and, that's basically what happens. You have so much time in your life to love God and to find God in your life, and if you don't, you're gonna end up being replaced with a clone, okay? Being replaced with an imposter, and they're gonna almost look like you, but they're not really gonna be you. They're gonna be some demon or fallen angel pretending to be you, but they're not really gonna be you. And maybe a lot of times, the thing that replaced you is simply the demon you had inside of you all along, who always wanted you to do evil and whatever, so you could lose your soul and it could then become you, alright? But, whatever the case may be, a lot of our parents were not human. Even if you're human, a lot of your parents weren't human. Maybe they were human when they gave birth to you, but like I said, shortly after that or whatever, at some point in time, they probably got replaced with a non-human. And so that's probably who raised you, is a non-human. You probably had quote-unquote reptilian parents, okay? Just is what it is. But I could tell this guy's dad, he never liked me. And, maybe he was a real human and he didn't like me because I was black. Or maybe he was like a non-human, like a reptilian or whatever, and he didn't like me because I was human. Because a lot of us don't even have human parents, even if you're human, okay? And, it always seemed like his mom was like, extra nice to me or something. Because maybe, his dad didn't like me or whatever. And, even at the time, I noticed that. I thought maybe it was because I was black or whatever. But, the rest of his family seemed cool, but, like, his dad really didn't seem to like me, And, were they all non-human? But the other ones just didn't mind me as much. And, the dad, non-human, just really just hated me as a human. That might be the case. Or, who knows how it broke down as far as which one of them was human, which one of them was non-human. Were they all non-human? Were they all human? I mean, who knows how it really broke down. But the fact that I was human may have had a role to play in that. And there's another case like that when I was in high school, where, I can think of a non-human family, and the mother and daughter were cool to hang out with me as a real human, but the non-human dad really didn't like me. But I'll get to that later. Well, so anyway, fast forward, by like 4th grade or whatever. Also, my 2nd and 3rd grade teacher, tried to, put me in pills or whatever and say I was slow. But luckily, unlike most black people, I actually had a mother and dad, reptilian or not, and they weren't having that. And, I think a lot of black kids, kids in general, especially if they have single mothers, I hear they may even pay them more for, putting them in special ed classes or putting them on pills or whatever. But, luckily I had, a mother and a father, and, they weren't having that. So, it is what it is. Well, anyway, 4th grade, I'm back in America, and, I get a 4th grade teacher named Mrs. Wallace, and, I don't know if she was human, but she was certainly the best teacher I ever had, black woman. She looked pretty youngish. I don't know, she couldn't have been older than 35 at the time, I would think. She might have been in her 20s too. She singled me out, I guess, for gay. And, I think, a lot of humans and human children, like true humans, they may not be the absolute smartest people, because it's usually like, basically people who are nothing more than AI, or maybe some fallen angels, who are usually like, the smartest. But real humans, they might tend to be smarter than average. And the reason for that is because your average person is probably like not even a fallen angel. They're probably just some dumb, demon, or some low-grade AI, right? And, a real human is gonna seem smart compared to someone like that, right? So, your higher level demons, your fallen angels, they might be, as smart or smarter than a normal person. But a lot of your, like, your people who are just, low-level demons and, what's the other thing? Like AI, robotoids and stuff like that. Your low-level ones like that, they may be really stupid. And that's what the movie Idiocracy was about. It was basically about, a lot of these, you were going to see a lot less smart demons and fallen angels and humans in society, and start seeing a lot more of these dumber demons and dumber AI, robotoid people in society. And it was gonna end up with like everyone seeming retarded. And that's basically what that movie was about. And that's basically what's going on now. You got a lot of people, and it's like, maybe they have jobs and lives and stuff, but like, it's like they're functionally retarded. And that's because they're not even real humans. A lot of them probably aren't even fallen angels anymore, like, or higher level demons. A lot of the fake people back in the day, they kind of had to represent, and they kind of had to be smarter. But nowadays, a lot of the fake people are just dumber than they've ever been before. And, that's because we're basically at the end times, and they don't even care anymore. They don't care to keep up the facade of everyone being human or whatever. And also, a lot of, the smarter fallen angels and demons may have kind of just drugged themselves out. They're popping pills and they're drinking themselves because they know it's like the last days. They know it's the end times, and they kind of don't care anymore, I think. So yeah, that's why everyone in society is so stupid now. But anyway, fourth grade, they single me out for gay. And I think gay is, maybe the way they start tracking a lot of these, like, gifted human children and seeing, what they're gonna do, if they're gonna figure certain things out, how can we come at these kids, what makes them tick, things like that. A lot of I'm not saying all or most of your gay children are human children, because, most children aren't human. But I think there probably are a lot of human children in gay, and a lot of the teachers for gay probably aren't human. And if you're a human child, they're probably really looking at you, wondering what makes you tick. Like, how smart are you gonna be? Like, are you gonna be smart enough one day to figure out that we're not human, etc., right? So you got all that going on. They put me in gate in like 4th, 5th grade. I go over to middle school now, and middle school was like a real, there were positives and there were negatives in middle school. Unlike high school, which just almost seemed like entirely negative. But at least in middle school, there were some positives for me too. It was like not every girl just hated me, alright? It was like I did have some who seemed to have crushes on me. Granted, I ain't go after them, I don't know. I ain't go after them, but, looking back, I mean, there were girls in middle school who seemed like they had a crush on me, both in my regular middle school and at my, like, karate class or whatever, where I was, like, higher ranking than most of the kids. But, I can't really think of, I mean, I'm sure they all knew that I was human, and most of them probably weren't, but I can't really think of too many instances where they did or they said things that exposed, that they knew I was human and that, they weren't human. But there was this one teacher, she was like a middle-aged black lady, and she used to kind of allude to, like, weird things. And she would call them, like, things that make you go, And she was probably non-human. But she would always kind of allude to these, like, kind of weird things, but I don't think I really quite caught it. Yeah, that's pretty much my middle school. And then in my high school, yeah, man, in my high school, that's when, the screws of like TFL or true forced loneliness and just being alone and being isolated, that's when that really began to turn up. Like, they turned it up in middle school, kinda, but they really, like, cranked up the isolation of me in like high school. I don't know, because maybe, obviously I wasn't the only human in high school or middle school or whatever, but maybe it was just kind of this deal where it was like, let's isolate this kid because he might one day, tell some of these other human kids about some of these conspiracies, so we're gonna make them seem weird so most of the human kids don't really hang out with them. I don't know. But at any rate, there was a time when I was a senior, and, this one girl that I had a crush on, she was talking to this other girl across the classroom, and she was like kind of loud enough so I could hear it. She was like, I hope, me doesn't ask me out. And, I wasn't like looking at him, but she said it loud enough that I could hear it, but I didn't take the hint, I guess. I don't know. I was kind of like in her friend zone or whatever. Don't feel sorry for me, though, because, I had my own, dirt as far as that goes. So don't feel sorry for me. I deserved what I got. But anyway, I was kind of in her friend zone orbit, and I guess maybe she knew that I liked her. Now, maybe some of that was, just women knowing when you wanna, get with them. But I think some of that also may have been just mind reading, because, looking back at her picture, I don't think she was human. So, and then, eventually, it kind of blew up in this incident or whatever. But, don't feel sorry for me, because I was kind of being a little dirty. So I deserve to get, my feelings hurt, I kind of had it coming. But, I thought, we could just, be friends for so many years, and then, eventually go out, like, at the end of senior year, or some, like, nonsense movie crap. But, wasn't gonna happen. She knew I liked her. And yeah. And also, again, don't feel sorry for me. I'm not gonna get too into it right now, but, I was kind of being a dirty Mac, as they say in the streets. So, I deserved that. My feelings hurt in that one. And that was totally, totally me. I just deserved that. But, also in high school, there was this teacher, the last day of school. Yeah, like, the last day of school, there was some people saying some weird stuff to me. And I almost didn't know, like, how to respond to it. Like, there was this one, like, Hispanic kid, and he was all like, something about, more or less along the lines of me being the smartest black person he knew. And I'm looking at him, and I kind of want to say some racist stuff back at him, but it's like, okay, I'm not being, too confrontational, but it was some weird stuff. But, looking back at him, I don't think he was human. Again, probably like 10 or 15% of the kids you went to school with were human, if that. But most of them weren't human, okay? You're probably looking at less than 10% maybe of the kids you knew in school actually being human. And so, yeah, this non-human, he was saying this stuff about me being, like, smart for a black guy or whatever, and, I'm just like, okay. And there was this other teacher, she was like a white Jewish lady, young, like 20-something, and, I think it was either the last day of school, or it was like one of the last days or whatever, and she was asking me, like, what I thought, basically, about Obama. And I was telling her, like, this was even back in 2009, I was telling her, I just think he was brought in, because people were getting too mad about George Bush, but I didn't think Obama was actually going to be this, like, great transformative leader or whatever. I just figured, he was going to be the same old, puppet who was maybe a little bit better than George Bush, but at the end of the day, they were both, like, with the system. And I guess she kind of looked at me like, well, I expect you to be smart enough to figure that out. And, she may have been human, she may not have been human. I'm not totally sure on her. I'll have to double check. I know, I'm not going to say all of those, white people who are so-called Jews aren't human, because, most of those type of people, I've actually had pretty good relationships with, well, not relationships, but I've related to them pretty well. The only so-called white Jewish person who, I knew who was a real prick, I didn't even know the guy. He was just like this gas station clerk, and he had a Middle Eastern accent, so I think he was Israeli. I don't think he was American. And, he accused me of stealing before, and I hadn't even stolen anything. And I was real insulted that he would even just levy that, and I was getting really pissed. I was getting really pissed, like I don't usually ever get. But, I thought, this guy might have a gun, and he might be trying to trigger me, bait me into doing something where he can justifiably, quote unquote, shoot me. So I just kind of walked out, and at the end, he was like, he knew, he was being stupid or whatever. He offered me like a slushie or something, like to make it up to me or whatever, and I was just like, keep it, dude. Like, I didn't, I didn't go to that store again while he was in it. I didn't want anything to do with that scumbag. Yeah. Well, anyway, and back to high school, crap. How much time do I have? Well, back to high school, there was another instance where, I'm at a party with my non-human girlfriend, and this isn't my crush, this is my girlfriend. So that kind of tells you, when I said I was being a bit of a dirty Mac, it kind of tells you where I was coming from. So yeah, I deserved to get my feelings hurt with that. But anyway, I was at like a party with my girlfriend, one of the few quote unquote house parties that I went to, anyway, if it could even be called that. But as me and her were leaving, like, I noticed that they're all looking at me like they're laughing at me. And I thought it was maybe because, like, my girlfriend wasn't the prettiest. And I figured that was maybe why. And maybe that was kind of the reason why. But, you know, looking back on it, I think most of them weren't human. And, you know, even back then, of course, I was known as this, like, conspiracy theory, you know, type of dude. And, you know, it's kind of like, you know, here goes this dude, you know, talking all this crap about all these conspiracy theories, and he don't know, you know, he dating a reptilian or whatever, right? I kind of think that was what was going on, but, you know, who knows? Who really knows? And that was kind of like another instance where, you know, I'm kind of being singled out, I think, by these non-humans. And, you know, what's another instance? There was this one quote-unquote white girl who I think was not human. And these house party kids, you know, they were black. So, you know, I'm not trying to say, you know, only black people are human and everyone else is not human. But, you know, these house party kids, they were pretty much all black. And they weren't human. But anyway, this one white girl, I don't think was human. She kind of said some stuff to me about, like, relating to women. That seemed a bit beyond her years, you know? A bit beyond her years. And, you know, I was kind of looking at her a little weird. But, she might not have been human, I don't think. But, another instance. She was kind of partly talking about another friend of hers who was a black girl, or who at least looked like a black girl, but she was non-human too. But her dad had money, right? And so her dad had money, and her dad had a really nice job, and you know, they lived in, like, you know, one of those, like, mini mansions, and, you know, they actually had a Maybach, believe it or not. And you know, she was you know, one of my, you know, closer friends in high school, and you know, I was talking with her, and, you know, there wasn't really much attraction there, but, you know, we were, you know, I was shorter than she was, and I wasn't really attracted to her, and, you know, so I don't really think there was too much of, like, attraction going on between us, so we could talk with each other and, you know, just kind of be friends or whatever. And I would go to her house a lot, and I noticed every time I went to her house, like, her dad, who was black, didn't really seem, you know, happy to see me, or like he wanted to see me. And every time I would come into the house, like, her mom, again, would be, like, you know, really cheery and, you know, really, you know, trying to make me feel at home and welcome. And, you know, she was my friend that I would talk to. But the dad really seemed like he really just, you know, hated me. And he would always just go upstairs and go in his room if he was ever home. And, you know, I was there. And oftentimes I would be there with some other people, most of whom were probably non-human too. But, you know, maybe one of the other girls was human at one point. I don't know, maybe. maybe this other boy was human at one point, maybe, but I doubt it. But you know, he would never really be that great thrilled to see me. He would always just, you know, go upstairs. And it's kind of weird because, you know, your daughter's hanging around this boy. You figure you might want to talk to him a little bit, see what's going on. And granted, he knew that I probably wasn't, like, interested in her like that. But even still, you know what I mean? But, he just didn't want anything to do with me, like, ever. Which is, you know, a little strange, but that's how it was. And yeah, he would just always, and I think he was probably like, you know, a fallen angel, with a high-ranking, high-paying job, and he just didn't, I don't know, maybe it just irked him to have a human boy in his house, you know, I don't know, like, it's bad enough he has to see humans in the street every now and then, to have a human boy in his house was just probably, you know, a bit too much, I don't know. So then, well, anyway, fast forward to the next stage in my life. Let's see. And again, no matter where you go, if you're a human, you're in the minority. You're either in the minority or, you know, you're like the only human, which is maybe even worse. But, you know, the next stage of my life, there may be other instances that I could think of later, but, you know, I was in the military, and for a bit, you know, I'm not anymore, but I was in the military, and, you know, there was this one woman there, you know, who, again, I think, you know, I thought she was kind of cute, but, like, not to the point I was ever going to ask her out or anything. I just thought she was kind of attractive. I mean, I think that about a lot of women, you know, but, you know, I would never, like, ask them out or anything. And, you know, I guess, you know, maybe we're just, you know, I was never going to ask her out or anything. I just kind of just thought she was a little attractive. And, you know, somehow we're somewhere or whatever, at work, not like, you know, off work or whatever. You know, we're just sitting by a workstation, and, she starts talking about, like, her new man or something, and I'm like, okay. But, like, you know, I was never hitting on her. I was never, like, you know, gonna ask her out